G'day, Tragic here, and this is part 2 of my tutorial on how to use the Star Wars Lackey plugin. And yeah, well, let's get straight into it. I'll try not to bloat this out. First thing you do, of course, is load up Lackey. Okay, so that's loaded up, and it's very, very simple. Let's just go into the deck editor, and this is the deck editor button here, and there's a whole bunch of buttons here. I'm going to do a third video on the deck editor itself, but let's just open a deck. If you click the browse button, you'll get a list of some decks, and I've included a light side and a dark side core set deck. One is called Han is a Jedi, which is a Jedi deck that uses the smuggler pod, and I can't remember what I called the other one. Oh yeah, Sith Bombardment. So that's a Sith Navy deck. Let's load up the Sith Navy deck because it's dark side and you know, they're the cool ones. And you'll notice that it automatically will start downloading the cards. No need to scour the net for cards. Come down and you'll be a button called Load Entire Deck to You. Let's just click it. Okay, so how do we use this plugin? Firstly, just a note on the interface. On the interface, you'll see these little tiny arrows. There's one here, and there's one up here. Now these open up other little button menus. So the first one we're going to press is the one down here near the chat log. Click, and that'll give you a whole bunch of buttons that I've given you as default. And you can set all your own stuff in here. I recommend leaving all these ones the way they are, and you can set all your own custom ones from then on. So what else? Between each area of the game zones, there's like a little, you can see how that's highlighted. You can now drag this, okay, and you can drag these things to any place you want. I obviously like to drag my card area up. This area here is where your cards go. This is the table, card viewer, and players and phases. Now remember that if you like, you can come into preferences again and then come to appearance and make card viewer images stretch to allotted space. Now if you tick that, this changing the size of the viewer here will actually stretch the cards. And a lot of people like to do that as well. But it will mean that the objective cards will be distorted. Anyway, so let's get on with it. So the first thing we want to do is the cards automatically shuffled, but if you really want to make sure, you can just right click and shuffle, and you'll see that it's already done this. Now the reason why it doesn't let you just continually shuffle is because a lot of players get annoyed of constant shuffling. So these are already shuffled. Now you'll see a whole bunch of buttons along here, and these are your main controls, and one of them you'll note is draw objectives. So we're just going to click that 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you can see, it's loaded 4 objective cards onto the table. Then to peek at these cards, just hold down Shift and mouse over, and you can see the cards while your opponent can't. Yeah, let's just get rid of one of these Emperor's Webs. So we're just going to right click on this card and come down to send to bottom of objectives. And now we can just put this over here and wait for the other guy to decide whether he's going to mulligan. And also in your decks, see, this is where all your decks are. You've got hand, command zone, command discard, objectives, force, objectives 1 and remove. So let's click on force, and we're just going to drag out our faction card as well. Okay, so we're ready to do that. Now let's draw our opening hand. You can come down and click this button that says draw 6, or you can just click this button 6 times, click this button, draw 6, or you can even just click mulligan if you like, but there's no point. So let's use the hotkey, Control D, and it'll just draw the 6 cards. And we can decide this is actually a pretty good hand, but to demonstrate it, you can also go Control M or just hit the mulligan, and it will mulligan it and announce it to the chat window as see. Okay, so we're going to decide to keep that. So we're going to drag select, hold down Control, flip, and just flip those cards over. And now it's our first turn. So what do we want to do? Well, let's play out upgrade defenses. So you can come over here, and if you're a real stickler for the rules, you can use these turn sequences to, you know, announce everything. Now, most people won't use this unless you're playing someone who's a bit iffy on the rules, but it's probably a good idea to keep track of the turns at least. So it's the first turn, which means that we get a point. Now, if you look into the player zones, you'll see these areas here, and this is where you can just record your data. So we're going to go Death Star Control up by 1. Okay, so let's play this guy out, and that's going to cost us 1 resource from Navy. So we're just going to click that and add a focus token. We'll stick this up here as well. And that is all we can do. Oh, that's limited. So, well, this is a character, so let's put this guy out as well and add a focus token. And that's pretty much the way the game plays. You can add focus tokens or you can add damage tokens, or you can add shields. So if you're going to add a couple of tokens, it should be like that. Couple of damage, couple of shields. Now I'm using the hotkeys, which are all listed under preferences, key bindings, and this is them here. Now I've set them up to be easy to press so you can never take your hand off the mouse, and that's just something I've done, but you can set these you want. Basically it works out like this. To add a force token is Alt Q, to remove it is Alt W, and then damage is Alt A and Alt S, and shielding is Alt Z and Alt X. And that way I can just click on a card and I can, without moving off my mouse, I can just go Alt Q and add some focus tokens and Alt W to remove them. Alt A, Alt S, Alt Z, Alt X. And that is pretty much how the entire game works. The only other real thing you need to know, which I've already said but I'll just say it again, is to flip a card, you hold down Control and click it like that. And that is very important because that is how you're going to do your edge battles. So here we are, let's do an edge battle with pretending we're in attack. Okay, so we're going to do an edge battle. You can just hold down Control and drag out, click on the card and then just drag it out, and now it's an edge. And then they put out their edge, you just drag select it, hold down Control and click, and it's revealed. Twist of Fate, they're discarded, so we can just right click, send to top of command discard. So let's put out another one, we'll do that, and we'll put out another one and we'll do that again. Drag select, hold down Control, click, and they're revealed. Okay, so that's all very well and good. You can also just select it and just drag it to command discard here. You don't have to use the right click menu. There's a couple of other buttons that might be interesting to you. You've got flip a coin and you've got roll a die, and that's just a good way to choose people. And also I've added a save and load, which is in addition to the automatic save and load. That's pretty much the game. You use these values are modified here. So changing the Death Star dial, I just press this button and you can see it is written in the chat. And of course I can do the same thing for the rebels. Now I might change some colors. The plugin's still kind of in beta, so I do realize that this is a little hard to read, so I'm going to look into that. Now finally, just one more thing I wanted to say, and that is about this. Okay, so you can advance the turn by pressing F4 or just pressing this button here. And this is a good idea because it's visual, it puts stuff in the chat log, which can be saved obviously, but it also automatically saves the game for you, so if there's a crash, you're never behind. And finally, one more thing, you notice that I put 3 stages for the combat, and this is quite simple. So I want to declare I'm in combat. I can just go, okay, conflict. I can declare my guys, and when I'm finished I can just click on defense, and you can see it now says defense ? Which means that the other player can now decide whether he's going to defense. When he's finished, he just clicks on edge. And that way the turn order is all organized, you know what's going on, and you don't need voice communications. You can play with randoms. And then you do your edge battle, and then if the conflict wants to happen for a second round, you just simply click on conflict one more time. Now again, beta, that breathing noise could very well be changed depending on what people think. Okay, so yeah, that's the plugin. We can you just click on stuff, add some damage, add some shields, add focus tokens, do everything you need to do. Oh, actually, one more thing, very important, I forgot. If I just switch to the dummy player, you'll notice that it flips around to the other side of the table. So this is what the other player would be seeing. Okay. Now it also means that you can very easily test your deck solo. But when I want to, say, attack this zone, if you hit Alt 1, you get a draw mode, okay? Now a single click will put an X, so I can just go click, and if you drag select, you get a big arrow, okay? And then when you're finished, just hit Alt F1 to turn off that mode, and Alt F2 will clear it. So if I want to attack this, I just go Alt F1 and I just go like that, and he knows that I'm now conflicting on that one. If I want to use some kind of card ability and I want it to say this guy could destroy an enhancement, I could just go like that. Say okay, I'm going to delete with this card. Okay, so that is pretty much the plugin and how it functions. I'll see you in the next one, and in the plugin threads I have a breakdown of the entire podcast. Oh yeah, I actually forgot to show you a couple of things. This button up here will unlock these. Now, it's very, very simple. Basically, the most important one is scale, and I'll get to that in a sec. But you've got zoom. So you can click the zoom button and then drag the table, and that will zoom out the table, okay? Or you can just use the mouse wheel if you've got a mouse wheel. And then you've got pan, which allows you to pan the table around, and you can just click on the 0 button to recenter it, and you can even tilt the table if you like, and you'll see the other player there. And this is kind of fun if you want to go around and do it that way. Yeah. And finally, you've got scale. So if I just load up my deck, let's just, draw some cards, stick them on the table. Now, if I click on scale, I can make these as large or as small as I want on the actual table, okay? Now, what's interesting about Lackey is that this is independent scaling. That means one player could be playing with tiny little cards, another player could be playing with them scaled really large, and they won't affect each other. They'll both work, okay? So you don't need to have the exact same scale cards. But this is where you can just get the cards to the size you want without having to have different types of resolutions. Okay, and finally, I did also forget to show you this button on the side. So you can click on this button, and this is kind of like a little helper tray. And there's a lot you can do with this tray, and one of them, of course, is click on this area called tokens, and you can drag out the balances of the force in case you forgot. If you forgot to put that in your deck, you've got it here. But also the balance of the force card itself. Okay, let's just get that scale a little bit back to 100%. Now again, remember, just hold down control to flick the balance of the force around, and yeah, that's about it for the token. Also, just while I'm quickly talking about the way you handle cards being on top of each other, they're just like real cards. You just pick up the card you want on top and drop it on the other card, and whatever gets dropped last is on top. So that would be how I would commit to the force. Just drag select like so. Anyway, finally you have this little zone tab. Now I usually play with this whole zone area closed, but a lot of people like to have it open. Here you can select what player, and here you can select what you want to be looking at. So for example, I could have my hand nice and open and visual, but then I could click on my discard, which is empty at the moment, so it's not very visible. Let's just chuck some cards into the discard, and then I can see what is in my discard at any given moment. But more importantly, and probably more useful, you could switch that to the dummy player and have a look at their discard. So if I just quickly drag some cards into the dummy player's discard, you can see that now I can play the game looking at my hand, and I can very easily see the dummy player's discard pile, and that will come in handy when there starts to be a lot more graveyard play. Okay, so that should be pretty much it for the plugin. I hope I haven't missed anything. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I tried to be succinct. Yeah, so see you next time. Have fun. And I'll probably do another one of these to demonstrate Database's Zeros plugin, which is an Octagon plugin and much more automated. So keep an eye out for that. And I will see you next time. So the card game. It's on.